Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Meditation and Spiritual Practice. It's nice to see everybody. And um, I I think what I'd like to do this morning is share just a beautiful teaching that is very appropriate as we're coming closer to the holiday of Shavuot, which is on June 11th, which is the revelation of Torah right now in our kind of in our Jewish the mystical dimension of our mythical dimension of our calendar. We are like right now the Israelites going from slavery in Egypt um, to Mount Sinai to Revelation and to receive the Torah, and we're in this process of getting ready for that. And what I'd like to do is lay a little bit of a groundwork of one of uh, Kabbalah's, what I would say is most accessible map for reality, for understanding reality, which is our four worlds um, model. And I'll get to that in a second about how that moves into what we're going to share this morning. But we're at the very end of the book of Leviticus this week. We close it off with Parshat Bechukotai, and the line that opens up the parsha says Im Bechukotai telchu. So it means if you will walk in my chukim, which get translated as statutes or laws, but really chukim are things that don't we're not able to necessarily understand rationally, but they're aspects of reality that are deeper than what our perception is. And so what's interesting is the line here, im bechukotai telchu. Telchu means if you walk, right? It's not if you listen to my chukim, to these unexplainable kind of laws or ways or pathways, but if you walk in them, if you live them, and then it says ve'et mitzvotai tishmeru, and you guard or observe the mitzvot, va'asitem otam, and do them, then I'll provide, God is talking, I'll provide rain in your time, and the land will get produce, and all of this that will go on. And if you don't, all this horrible stuff will happen, right? So one way of understanding this is the kind of reward and punishment idea, which is if you go ahead and do X, Y, and Z, or then good stuff will happen, and if you don't, bad stuff will happen. Kind of like an idea, a God up there that says, listen and you'll get the reward. Don't listen, you'll get the punishment. But there's also another way of understanding this, which is not a supernatural way, meaning kind of a God up here that's going to make stuff happen if you do good and not make stuff happen, but instead a more naturalistic perspective, which is one in which naturalistic, just like there are laws of nature, right? There are things that happen. If there is cause and effect, there is karma. If one goes ahead and does X, that is like pulling on a particular string in this web of interconnection that we're a part of, and then Y will happen. And what's interesting here is that Rashi, the great French commentary there about this opening verse, says, Im bechukotai telchu, if you will walk in my pathways, my unexplainable laws, and if you will guard the mitzvot and do them, then he says there are three different verbs here and three different things we're talking about. They can't all mean the same thing. So what does it mean to walk in my chukim, in my pathways? It means to be absorbed in Torah. It means at this point, we're not even talking about doing anything. We're just talking about being absorbed in Torah. It's a consciousness, it's an awareness thing. Be absorbed in Torah. And then it goes ahead and says, And if you guard the mitzvot, meaning that if you create space in your life and make a point to know about what mitzvot are, what are the things to connect, all of that. And then a third step, if you then actually do them, each one of these things are 3 different steps. But I want to focus on the first one. And the first one is, what does it mean to become absorbed in Torah? And here, what we need to talk about is kind of the nature of reality. One of the things that the Kabbalists were so concerned with is the question of how does the infinite become finite? How does the infinite become finite? Meaning, if one opens up to a intuition or a knowing or an experience that what we refer to as God, as the source of life, as reality, the intuition that it is infinite, that is there is no end. As human beings, we are always growing. The world is always evolving. There is no end point where one says, I'm done, or the universe is done, or God is done. It is infinite. It is infinite. So there is that intuition and that sense. The word that the Kabbalists use for that infinite dimension of reality is Ein Sof. Ein Sof is a name for God, but that means without end, right? So I've got this reality of infiniteness that I'm a part of. And at the same time, I experience finiteness, that the very nature of human consciousness is to see myself and the world as finite. There's a place where I end and the air begins. I see separation and things broken up into lots of different aspects. There is finiteness. A glass of water only has that much water, right? It's not infinitely overflowing for end. It's got this much. Finiteness is an example also of reality. So how do both of these things exist at once? How can there be both infinite and finite? And so one of the ways that the rabbis, the Kabbalists, use 2 main models or maps to try to describe this. One is the Sfirot, which we're talking about, these different divine qualities. And during this Omer period, we focus on each one of them. And another one is called Olamot, which means worlds. And one of the things about the word Olam, or worlds, to talk about what does Olam mean in Hebrew, is Olam Ayin Vav Lamed Mem has in its root, its Hebrew root, Ayin Lamed Mem, which means Alam, which also, besides meaning world, means hidden. So it means that on one hand, what defines a world is that it is hiding other aspects of reality. As soon as I go ahead and say, this is the world, this is my world, I'm speaking about only a portion. And the very nature of the Hebrew word for world, olam, means that if I say my world, there's also all of this aspect of reality that is not in what I'm aware of as my world, that is hidden, and that goes on infinitely. And we can draw these circles. I can say, this is the world. And I can draw another wider circle around that and say, no, this is the world. There's more than that. I could do that as I grow in consciousness and awareness. What was hidden from me at one point in the circle, that was outside the circle, then my awareness begins to include as I grow, and so on until the circles go outward, outward, outward onto infinite. So very briefly, the 4 worlds model is the aspect that the idea that what we experience as the physical sensory reality, which really is what dominates our consciousness as human beings, is only one level of awareness, right? The sense of physicality of all of the information that I take in through my senses, my eyes, my ears, my sense of touch, the solidness of this world, is the level of reality called asiya. Asiya. One, just one aspect. We think about the physical world as everything, but from the Kabbalists, that kind of finite world that we're speaking of is just one level. If I deepen my awareness, I pay even closer attention to this moment, I experience not only physicality, but I start to experience the world as energy and myself as energy. This is just a perception of consciousness. Now, my sense of myself and everything around me is not solid physical reality as usual, but is buzzing, is vibrating, is alive, right? And we know this through our sixth grade physical science learning of an atom, right? That it has a nucleus, a proton and neutron, and an electron, which is buzzing around it. So matter is also energy. It's vibrating, it's alive. And as soon as I begin to sense into the vibrating nature of the moment, myself and everything around, I'm in another dimension of consciousness, another world, if you will, called Yetzirah. Yetzirah. It's another piece here. I go even deeper to that. I go deeper into the awareness of the energy. And I start to sense that in all of this expression, unfolding of energy moment by moment that I'm a part of, there are patterns. It's not just random and chaotic, but there is things that are connected, and I find meaning in the patterns. And I find that things are connected, that weren't. I start to sense into that there is a blueprint for creation, right? In the same way that a person who wants to build a house goes ahead and first decides to build a house, then draws up a blueprint that says this is exactly how everything's going to go in the house, and then brings workers together to create all the energy that makes the house happen, and then finally we have the final house. There's a step in that creative process which is about thought, conceiving the blueprint. What's the house going to look like? And on this level, this world called Bria is speaking about a level of consciousness that is able to detect that there are meaningful patterns and blueprint behind every moment of reality. Every moment, right here, right now. And we participate in that. It's not like some being out there that we call God creates the blueprint and we are all just, following it as it goes forward. But we are actually participating in that the one, the God, the infinite source of life is not just separate from us, but is through us, and we are an expression of it. And so when we have a vision, when we have an idea of what could be created, that is the Holy One also through us being able to envision a blueprint for creation. And then we can act on it or not act on it. But there is that vision that we are participating with every other person in the world and beyond. And this right here, this world of Bria, is what the Kabbalists call Torah. Being absorbed in Torah, the im bechukotai telchu, to walk in the path of the chukim, to be absorbed in Torah, is to be present to the level of reality that is the blueprint, that is able to sense that there is purpose in this moment, that there is a vision for who I and we can be. That level, that is Torah. And when we actually open up the scroll or the book, we are tapping into Torah if what we are reading and studying and learning is taking our awareness to the blueprint for creation as it's unfolding moment by moment by moment. And so that's part of, as we're preparing for Shavuot, part of the practice of deepening our awareness so that we can be present to Torah on that level is really about um, our being able to work on our own character, our own ways that we act and our habits in the world and how we relate. Everything we work on during the Omer, the character development aspect, is what affects what we're conscious and aware and present to. So that's what we're going to focus on today, is what does it mean to be absorbed in Torah, to be able to open to that deeper blueprint. So let's go ahead and find a position that you can sit in for a period of time without having to move around too much. And we'll start with a melody with an igun. Yalalai, lalalai, lai, 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 yalalai, lalalai, lai, lai, lai. Yalalai, lalalai, lai, 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 yalalai, lai, lai. Yalalai, lalalai, lai, 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 yalalai, lalalai, lai, lai, lai. Yalalai, lalalai, lai, 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 yalalai, lai, lai. Yai, dai, dai. Yana, nai, 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 nai. Yana, nai, 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 nai. Yana, nai, 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 nai. Yana, nai, 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 nai. Yana, nai, na, na, nai, 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 nai. Yana, nai, na, na, nai, 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 nai. Yana, nai, na, na, nai, 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 nai. Yana, nai, nai, nai. Yana, nai, na, na, nai, 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 nai. Yana, nai, na, na, nai, 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 nai. Yana, nai, na, na, nai, 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 nai. Yana, nai, nai, nai. Yai, dai, dai. Yalla lie, 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 lie. Yalla lie, 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 lie. Yana nine, 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 nine. Yana nine, 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 nine. Yana nine, 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 nine, nine. Yana nine, 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 nine. Yana nine, 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 nine. Yana nine, 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 nine. Yana nine, nine, nine. Yai, hi, hi. Yada nine, 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 nine. Yada nine, 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 nine. Yada nine, 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 nine. Yada nine, 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 nine. Yada nine, 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 nine. Yana nine, 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 nine. Yana nine, 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 nine. Yana nine, 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 nine. So with your eyes closed, settle into your body, noticing the pressure of your bottom in the cushion or the chair, the place where the bottom of your feet meet the ground, feeling that gentle pull of gravity on your body. Noticing the gentle pull of your arms out of your shoulder sockets and the resting place of your hands. Notice your entire body in space from the top of your head to the tip of your toes. All the sensations in your body without judgment, just noticing. Allow your awareness to include your breath, noticing where the air enters the nostrils or the mouth on the inhale. Notice all the sensations in the body that accompany that inhale, whether it's an expansion of chest or belly, whether you feel it in your face, gently expanding with each inhale inside your nostrils or your mouth. See if you even notice energy or tingling or sensation in your legs, your feet, as each breath comes in and out. Let the awareness of your breath be an anchor to this present moment, to being present with everything in this moment. Body sensations, sounds. Let your attention be wide and open, allowing your field of awareness to include everything in this physical space: breath, body, sounds. You can just make the decision to be present with one full breath and all that accompanies it, all that's in your physical reality here and now, with just one cycle of inhale and exhale. And then when you finish the exhale, decide to be present again for another. And as you're aware of all the physical sensation in this moment by moment by moment, tune into the aliveness of everything in your field of awareness, that your cells and the sensations in your body are all vibrating, life, alive. Even the sounds around that reach your ear with sound waves are an expression of energy, of life. Tune into the vibrancy that accompanies everything in your field of awareness. As you start to tune into the energetic quality of this moment, the alive, vibrant, in motion aspect of everything in our field of experience, we're tapping into a deeper world, a deeper awareness of this moment. And as you continue to pay attention to the energetic quality of this moment, consider that everything that is unfolding right now is part of something larger. That there is a larger more expansive dimension to reality than we are aware of here and now. Find that place in you that can feel the truth of being part of something larger than we can perceive or know in this moment. And let that consideration create an openness and a trust in this moment as things unfold, body, breath. I'm going to be quiet for the rest of the time. I invite you, as you stay present with this moment by moment, paying attention, staying connected to that movement of breath, tuning into the energetic quality of everything in your field of perception, breath, body, sensation, sound, everything. Continue to hold open the possibility that everything we are present to here and now is part of something larger and something deeper. This is what it means to be open to receiving Torah. So anybody who would like to share anything, ask a question, um, please, the floor is open.
I'll say something. Thank you. It was really wonderful. I've heard the Farod in your explanation. This hit home even more, starting to sink in more. So what I think of, I wrote it down. The physical realities, yeah, that's really it. I get that. And then experiencing energy, but and that I do, but getting into the connecting. For me, that would be sitting outside with nature, the connecting with the infinite and the finite. And it takes me being in the present, being in the moment, because it's really easy to just bypass all that. And I see the sun and the weather and the animals really, for me, a lot of it was the nature and the infinite for some reason, and looking up at the stars. So that's what came up for me. And I appreciate today's talk.
Yeah, thank you, Audrey. Yes, this way that we're talking about Torah, or this level of reality that is called Bria, um, but this level of reality that we're speaking about, that is about meaningful patterns of connection that we are a part of, for sure, nature tunes us into that reality, right? It's, if we're very quiet and we're sitting in nature, there is a sense that we get of, and we know, it's those of us who have an ecological awareness of the scientific aspect of it can actually know intellectually how everything is that we're seeing in creation is connected, from the birds to the trees to all of that. But just without even that intellectual understanding, there just is a sense of feeling that all of this is a part of something, and we are a part of something. That is that awareness of Bria. Um, Now that the nature is just, I would say, at least from the Kabbalistic perspective, nature is one road into, one peak into that reality of infinite interconnection. And that reality of meaningful patterns that we're a part of go even beyond nature, right? I mean, we've talked about, those of you know, I use this example all the time to speak about this world that kind of goes beyond nature as we understand it. When we're thinking about somebody, and all of a sudden the phone rings, and there they are, and it seems like, wow, I was just thinking about you. And the whole wow period moment is because normally we think, if the person who called us is across the country, or even the planet or whatever, we think that they are very far from us. We don't live in the reality that we're always connected in more of a meaningful way. So then all of a sudden that call happens at the moment we're thinking of it. And if we don't dismiss it right away as, oh, just a random happening, if there's something that feels meaningful about it, the meaningful part is that in somehow, even though we're apart by miles and miles and miles, there is an aspect of reality that we are completely connected. And that phone call just tuned us into that in that moment. Now, one of the things I want to just share a little bit is, as far this what we're talking about here is, I'm talking about it as an idea, right? As a concept. For some of us, this isn't just a concept, it's a living reality that has bared out in our life experience. But when we take it into practice and into meditation, the idea is not to impose a concept in the moment of meditation on our moment-to-moment experience of reality. Meaning, I can go ahead, if I go ahead and sit in this moment, I can have an idea, a concept of the world as energy and me as energy. And right now, that's just a concept. It's just an idea. Now, that idea might prompt me to pay a little closer attention to my moment-to-moment experience of breath and body and all of that. And then I actually notice the energy that's a part of it, not as a concept, but as a living reality that I'm experiencing. And certainly those of us that have done a meditation retreat or spent a little bit more time than just 20 minutes at a time begin to sense into this vibratory quality of reality and the universe. But the point is that I can actually experience that energetic quality without it just being an idea. Now we have this concept of the world of Bria about things being connected and there being meaningful patterns, right? When I when I sit down in meditation and I start paying attention to what is, yes, I can sense into that energy part of reality. But this idea of meaningful patterns and being part of larger, that isn't evident to me in my moment-to-moment experience. I know it as an idea. I've experienced it in the past. It's not necessarily something that I am directly observing in the moment. I'm feeling my breath, I'm feeling my body, I'm feeling the vibratory nature of things. So if that's not what I'm actually experiencing, then how do I bring it into the practice without it being a concept that I'm trying to impose a little bit artificially on my reality of the moment? And this is where we're talking about an openness, right? Just to be able to be with my moment-to-moment experience in a way that is open to it being part of something larger. Being open to the fact that my moment-to-moment experience of energy, of my body, of my breath, is just the surface reality, layer of reality. And there is deeper and deeper levels. Without having to impose what those deeper and deeper realities should be experienced like, what it is, what it isn't, just a sense of openness to my moment-to-moment experience is what the practice is in the meditation. It's being able to say, I'm going to be with what is and be open to it being part of something larger. I'm just open. That's what the practice is being open, because who knows what level of Torah or of blueprint or of things will reveal itself. I certainly don't want to impose some idea of that in the moment, then I'm taking some past concept. But I do want to be open in the moment. And just by the fact of saying, this world is not the only dimension of reality that there is, just holding on to that allows my orientation of openness for me to bring that. Janet, unmute. You got to unmute. if you're on a Mac, it's both.
Okay, yes, okay. It was being blocked. Okay. Um, Two things. One is in terms of the world of energy, as you described it at the beginning, for the first time, I sort of got a place for my Qigong practice, which is not always regular, but that's a very embodied way of experiencing energy. And in fact, when I've done it regularly, meaning let's say 3 days in a row, and then I go to the park, um, I'm much more open to nature. I perceive nature much more vividly than had I not been doing my Qigong practice. And I just go and I think everything's pretty and beautiful and I think I'm enjoying it. But there's no comparison to having done Qigong for 3 days and then going into nature and experiencing that. So that was very good to hear you say that, because I haven't had a place to put where does my Qigong practice fall into my Jewish practice.
Yeah.
So that was very organizing and solidifying for me. And then the other thing is that I've been studying Vayikra, Leviticus, and seeing the structure in that, and that is very much about a blueprint.
Yes.
And so that was just sort of amazing to hear you say that is sort of the third world and bringing in meaning. And in a way, sort of with Qigong, I don't quite figure out what the meaning is. I'm just in the experience. But with the Torah study, seeing the blueprint there then was very meaningful when you describe that now as sort of these different levels.
Beautiful. Thank you, Janet. Yes. So, right, that Qigong, for those of you who don't know, it's a Chinese movement practice, but it's really about energy. It's about bringing our awareness to the aspect of energy in our body and in the world and all of that. And as soon as you start to pay attention closer to that level of energy, which you do in your Qigong practice, you go to the park and you're tuned into that level of energy, and everything has energy, everything is vibrating, everything is much more. And on that level, according to this model, this four world model, within the Qigong practice of energy, there is not meaning. There is no meaning. It's energy. It's not that there isn't meaning within it, that there's not a deeper pattern, but just the experience of energy itself from this Kabbalistic map, this world of Yetzirah that you're tuned into, is not about meaning. It's just about energy, vibrancy, aliveness. You pay closer attention, then a different world opens up, a different awareness, which is this level of meaning that's happening. And in fact, one leads to the other as it goes through. Yes, Maury.
So I was going to talk about reward and punishment, which you were talking about, but there's something else there. Outside of my bedroom door, I keep a pair of flip-flops outside a sliding door. And it happened a few times that the shoes were sort of thrown onto the dirt near my deck, but they were not, like an animal might have wildly done it. They were not damaged. They were not chewed on like some big deer might do. Then I bring the shoes back. The next morning, the shoes are back in the dirt and sort of nicely placed. And this morning, one of the shoes was brought back and laid in front of my door. So what animal is doing this? This is an animal that I am relating to. What do you think? I says, like a raccoon. What? Yeah, it's what you said about connecting and feeling connected. So there's this animal now that I have a relationship. I don't know what kind of an animal it is, but it has some intelligence that it's playing with my shoes and putting them back. It's just a silly story, but it's something about that. I feel connected now to this other piece of life. I don't know who it is. but it's an animal.
Yeah. What's really interesting about what you're bringing up with that, Maury, is that when we start to talk about levels of meaning, we're not necessarily talking about Torah, meaning that if Torah is a blueprint for reality and creation, and as human beings, we are meaning-making people, right? We can draw any kinds of connections or patterns through what we experience, right? We can experience things on a level of the physicality of sensory, we can experience things on the level of energy, and then we can make whatever meaning and connections that we want to. And I'm bringing this up not to make any comment at all about feeling like that there was some connection or meaning that you had with the animal. Like, that's all good, but I'm using that as an example to say, not referring to you, but to say that not all meaning that we draw about something is Torah, right? People can draw meaning from events that lead to really destructive stuff, right? That can lead to, I mean, I can draw meaning, I can justify the most hateful, or even interpersonally, somebody looks at me the wrong way, I experience a sensory kind of thing that, maybe they're just tired, they've had a hard day, and yet I can draw all kinds of meaning from it that, they don't like me, they're upset at me, they're blah, blah, blah. It's all fantasy in my head. It's not connecting to some deeper underlying pattern of reality that's there. I'm drawing meaning from it, but it's not, what I'm drawing from is not Torah, right? If we're talking about Torah as a blueprint, as something that's saying, this is something that's true about our interconnection of all of life. Just because I draw meaning from events doesn't mean that it taps into something that's true beyond what I think about it. Now, whatever for sure, we know that we are connected to the natural world and of life. And if in that moment you felt more connected to animal life because of that little interaction with your shoes, right? That little interaction with the shoes is a little peeking into a fundamental connection that you're already a part of, even if things didn't actually unfold in the way that you imagined them to happen with the shoes, if that makes sense. Okay, heady stuff. Any last comments before we close? Dennis?
I kept thinking about music, listening to music and getting connected to another kind of a world. The vibration of the music, maybe that's the way that I connect, like Audrey connects through nature. I connect through music to that other world.
Right, and if we take this model of these four worlds and bring it to music, right, just like in the pattern of any creation that happens, whether there is the being of the person, right, there's the musician themselves, the musician, who they are in the world, what their soul is. Then they have an inspiration, a vision or a blueprint, and they create a song, they write something that happens right there, and then they play it, and there's vibrations and there's energy, and when you listen to it, you experience the sensory experience of it, you experience the energetic aspect of the music, and there's something about the vision and the blueprint, the Torah, if you will, of that person's own creativity. And if it's really transcendent or inspiring, it's probably that person at that time that they were bringing that music through, there was a sense of connection that they were also bringing through, that now you have a window into through the music. But all those levels of reality are happening at this, even in the listening of the music.
There's also the pattern part of it, Kavod.
Yeah.
some of the music is just universal. It, for me, it taps in at a level that has nothing to do with the music itself. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, that's the transcendent aspect.
Yes.
Beautiful. Okay, everybody. Well, thank you for being here this morning. Great to see everybody. Hope everybody has a good week. And as we get ready to move into the week of Yesod tonight, the week of relationship and connection, especially interpersonally, take good care, everyone.
Bye, everyone.